So today we're going to be talking about overtraining, some of the myths that are involved with it, and kind of showing you with training what is doable, what shouldn't be done, can you actually overtrain, or are you actually just under recovering? So when we're looking at normal training volume through sessions, it's going to be dependent on the individual. So when it comes down to age, sex, weight, height, training age, experience, prior injuries, goals, how many times a week you're training. There's lots of variables that can come into training or overtraining. And sometimes it can be a balance between overtraining and overreaching, which is something that I'll speak about a little bit later. But today's session for us, we're going to be doing 4 chest movements, 2 tricep movements, and 2 sets of everything. The reason why we limit the sets and bring them down a little bit is because we do 1 feeder set before each working set, or before going into the movement. And then we're also working on tempo. So, for example, with the pec deck fly there, you'll notice that I'm taking a 3-second negative and coming through the concentric, now a 2-second pause in a contracted state. For the set to take a lot longer, we're spending longer time under tension to get better mind-muscle connection. So that's why we don't always have to do 4 times 12 sets.
So, can we really overtrain then? I would argue, for the vast majority of people, no. But we may be doing something called overreaching. Overreaching is a temporary condition that occurs in response to heavy or intense loads. The symptoms of overreaching are generally feeling unwell, disrupted sleep, and mood fluctuations. It does not have any significant impact on athletic performance. Now, overtraining, on the other hand, is a chronic condition of extreme fatigue. It is a serious condition that is induced by prolonged, high volume and high intensity repeated and reoccurring monotonous training sessions. So basically, if an athlete doesn't allow their body to recover completely and continues to train hard, this could lead to overtraining. However, you're not an athlete, mate, so don't worry about it. Look at that. This gives me energy every day, physically and mentally. The daily oat bowl. This brings on to one of the things of overtraining versus under recovery. So one of the big ones is about food. If we're not fueling the workouts and the amount of output that we're doing, we're gonna get to the point where we aren't able to recover because we aren't getting the nutrients in to fuel the body. And this is one of the big things around training and performance that we need to keep in touch with, even if you're in a deficit, is where your performance at and where your health's at, and are you able to recover from the amount of stimulus that you're doing in the gym. The other big one, water. Try and get a bit in a day. I've got a lot better at it by carrying a flash around, #myprotein. Use my code. The other thing I've dialed down a little bit, which you're seeing from the sheet that I'm going to pop up in a minute, is my caffeine intake. So don't rely on caffeine to fuel your whole day. I try to keep mine at around 400 milligrams at the moment, so I'm not using it as a kick to kind of put plaster over a wound. And the other thing I'm just going to dive into now, to do with recovery, that I've been using over the last 2 weeks, and this is the sponsor of this week's episode. You probably see me using these about 2 weeks ago because I've been doing a 2-week trial period, had a lot of questions to do with CBD. I was one of those who was skeptical about CBD, didn't want to like it, but I do. And this one I use it in tablet form. The reason why is because the bioavailability is a lot better from capsule form. So you see these little capsules, these go through the digestive system and the little beads drop into where they need to so that we can get a fuller hit of the CBD. We actually lose out a lot of the CBD when it is done in liquid form because of the heat and the exposure. And the same when we are using the rub, we don't get the full hit of CBD just due to it not getting into where we need it to be. So the capsules have really helped. I've also been tracking, I'll pop on the screen now, with the screenshot or the video of me going through this sheet of my use of CBD and taking metrics and markers throughout this last couple of weeks whilst I've been using the Satipharm CBD, where the main markers have been taken essentially are to do with sleep, stress, energy levels. I've also been monitoring my sleep satisfaction, which has improved since I've been taking CBD. I've also been monitoring my blood pressure, my systolic and diastolic, yeah, and that has also come down. So we look at week 31 to week 32, i.e. week 2 where I was taking CBD. My stress levels have come down, apart from when I was ill towards the end of the week. My sleep satisfaction is a hell of a lot better since I've been taking CBD. And also my blood pressure's come down to 112 over 55. Of course it's going to be impacted by the run that I'm doing, but the CBD has massively helped to balance out the stress, anxiety, better sleep satisfaction and recovery, which is a big one when we're training a lot. So CBD Satipharm, I'll leave the link to this in the description. You can also get 50% off with the code in the description as well. Massively recommend these, try them for a 2-week period, see how you get on with them. They do massively help with recovery, muscle function, immune system help, and oxidative stress. I started off at 10 milligrams per day and then moved to 30 milligrams per day. There is no psychoactive compounds or elements to it, so you're not gonna get the high like you would from cannabis. It's CBD. So check them out, check out the dosage. I'll leave some of the bits on the screen from my use with them and my experience with them, because it's been awesome for the last 14 days and we continue to use these. These are the CBD Advanced. These are more for active. So if you're someone who's training a lot, running a lot, you want to look after your recovery and make sure that you are recovering properly, Satipharm CBD. And this week I'm going to be going doing a Medicheck sample, so they're not sponsored by these, just bought these. It's quite expensive, like 180 quid. Get my blood work done, just so I can see where I'm at. So get a lot of stuff from this one. This is the sample kit. So I'll be able to see my bloods are at, see where certain health markers are at. I don't know if I'll be able to record this bit. If I can, I'll pop it on the screen where I'm getting the bloods done at Superdrug. And I'll update you on my blood work and how it's looking. Just good to every now and again do an MOT, so see what's going on inside the body as well as what we look like. So Medichecks, MOT, next week. But the thing that I'm very poor at is mobility and stretching.
That absolutely confused me.
So on that point, women are actually better drivers than men statistically, and the men are actually better at navigating and map reading, something to do with the hippocampus. That's why male taxi drivers have huge hippocampuses, because they do all the driving. So if you go on a trip, let the female drive, the male navigate. Jobs are good.
I'm actually really good at navigating as well though.
You're not, you're terrible.
I'm not, I'm really good at navigating.
You're not?
With a map and a compass I am.
We're in the 21st century now, by the way. Nobody is using a map.
Well, when your dad is Clive, you are in a forest with a map and a compass.
We're not in forest, so we're on the way to an M52 to go to physio.
Yes.
My elbow. I'm going to take the whole thing, man. My elbow. Honestly, I didn't know anything wrong with it until I booked in physio.
Just don't look. It's lovely to see you, but don't look in. Okay.
So what is your input? Because I've been taught overtraining versus under recovery.
What's the difference? Or what?
No, kind of like how people say it. So I believe personally most of the time people under recover, because if you look at how a lot of people train, especially people who are training for events and stuff, you need to do a lot of training to be in with it, but often people under recover and not overtraining is the kind of debate.
Yeah, I think it's relative, isn't it? So what we tend to find is that people will not do any rest.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be complete rest. It doesn't have to be stop doing everything, stop doing any kind of training. It just has to be smart in that you allow certain muscle groups, certain areas of the body to recover, so that when you use them next time, they're ready to go at their best without then injury. So overtraining, yes, but it's overtraining under recovering. I think it's all one. And so you can be really smart with it, and you can still train for events or competitions or whatever it is your goal is, as long as you are aware of how the recovery takes. So if it's certain smaller muscle groups, they're going to recover relatively quickly, but the bigger muscles, legs DOMs last 3 days, shoulder DOMs can last a day. You know, you need to know that recovery time, so you know when you're then able to reuse them, but also when they're going to peak and when they're going to be at their best for you to make sure you perform at your best as well.
Yeah, and obviously there'll be some form of adaptation as well, because like when we started running again, I was so sore, but over the last couple of weeks I don't get sore from it anymore. That's why I need to go into physio, because I don't stretch a lot, do any mobility work, so you do it for me, don't you, Dave?
Save you the job.
stress. Stress is a big one. The reason being is because whenever we get too stressed, obviously certain amounts of stress are good for the body. It keeps us alert, keeps us focused. But when we get too much stress, we get a lot of, from a gland, a lot of cortisol that's released, and also a lot of adrenaline. And that adrenaline goes through the bloodstream into the heart, and obviously makes it beat faster. So stress in certain portions is good for us. Too much stress, it's going to be bad for a lot of parts of our body, which is why it's important to manage it. Not just physical stress from the gym, training stuff, but also our mental and psychological health from stress. The other thing that's going to happen is, from stress, we usually get a funny stomach, digestive stress, and it's also going to play with our hormones, our leptin and ghrelin, which is going to make you be a gluttonous. So you're going to eat too much food, you're going to overeat, you're not going to be listening to your hunger hormones properly because you're stressed. So managing that, remember taking time out to do for you outside of training, not trying to put too much on your plate, not worrying too much about work, try not to do too much, not putting too much emphasis on what other people think or what is going on social media is massively important to managing your recovery and stress. So, big thing for me, never stop being a kid. This video.
Sorry for them for you. Sorry for them through the pop everywhere. You want to wait to go on the train? Where are we going? Hey. Where are we going? To do what? And what are we going to do when we get to Brighton? And see Mr. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese? What's a Chucky do?
They have little areas.
Yeah.
And you know what's there. You know what's there.
What's there?
And there's Chuck E. Cheese's there as well.
Is he? What's he do?
They say you something.
Say you some things?
Yeah.
Remember with the crowd?
There's a train.
There's the train. Wave to the driver, quick, wave. Wave. Wave to him. So now you can begin to see how important it is when it comes to mindset and recovery. It's not just about the physical. So do you have an open mindset when it comes to training? Are you adhering to a program? Do you know when to push and when to hold back, to deload? Are you really enjoying training? Or are you just looking at things from a negative perspective and looking at negativity bias? We're really harsh on ourselves. Do you hate your body during training? Do you hate your body when you look in the mirror? Are you going through sessions and just thinking, I can't wait till it finishes? Do you find that it's just become a part of your day and that you have to force it like it's a chore? And are you one of those people who prides himself on training every day? Hashtag no rest days. These are all important questions when it comes to overtraining. They're important to ask. So how do you know if you've overtrained or overreached? What should you ideally be looking out for? Well, the first one is going to be performance. If your performance in the gym sucks balls, number 1. 2, impaired sleep. 3, just chronic fatigue, like you can't recover, you're tired all the time, you're fatigued all the time, and you just literally feel like balls. And you're just the moodiest hobo to ever exist. What can we do about it to fix it? That is the question. That is the question. So, as discussed, one of the things that we can do is eat enough real food, not just be having processed all the time. Prioritise and sleep, i.e. not just going on your phone before bed, actually going into a deep sleep and setting some kind of nighttime and morning routine. Also realise that the 22 hours in a day that are outside of training potentially, and that's given 2 hours to training or walking or whatever you're doing. We also know that a lot of the research that has been done over training has predominantly been done on athletes. I think that most of the people I'm now talking to are not athletes. I'm not an athlete myself. So as long as you get that recovery rate of that 22 hours or even perfect it, you know that you can't overtrain.
As a side note, supplementation, as we discussed briefly, is important. I tend to use, for recovery purposes, a whey protein, a multivitamin, and a fish oil for my joints. And the big one that I've just added to the stack for me, as we discussed earlier in the video, is CBD. A big shout out to Satipharm for sponsoring this video and supplying with the good CBD. They've really changed the game for me in recovery over the last 2 weeks, and hopefully they can do the same for you. So don't forget to use the code BEN50 and hit the link that is in the description to buy yourself some CBD. Before I love you and leave you, if you feel like you are pushing some of these buttons of overtraining or just under recovering, then one of the things that you can do is take a deload week, or to take a week off. Deload, mainly focus on volume, scale it back, pull some sets out, pull some of the load out. If this is your first time visiting my channel, make sure that you hit that, what do I need here?
Like and subscribe.
Do it in order, do the like button, give me some space to do the ding. And this is your first time visiting my channel,
Subscribe.
I'll see you next one.
Corazón. Gun finna jump for this shit. All tap when I speak.